Charles, what's happening? Another Friday, my friend.
Beautiful day in the neighborhood, my brother.
It is indeed, especially any day and every day we get to see. Look, a lot going on this week. Let me just hit it off the top before we get into some really interesting news that is happening. Let me hit it off the top. CDC, Dr. Fauci announcement that if you've been fully vaccinated, you no longer have to wear masks outside. And I want to emphasize that because people took that and ran with it, and they left off parts of what they said. And and somebody had mentioned to me, I think it might have been my wife, that no sooner than they made the announcement, she was out somewhere and somebody ran in there and said, we don't have to wear masks no more. And that's not what they said. So what they said was, and I repeat, if you're fully vaccinated, that means both shots, or if you took the Johnson & Johnson, one shot, and you've gone through your period that it takes after you take the shot to be fully vaccinated, which is your 2 weeks, then you don't have to wear a mask outside. That's what they said. Charles?
I just have a question. Is COVID gone?
No, it's not gone. It's still infecting people. And I think their point to that was very clear. They said it's a couple caveats that people are skipping. If you've been fully vaccinated. And so what that means, there's criteria to that statement. If you have been fully vaccinated. So basically, if you haven't been fully vaccinated, this statement does not apply to you. So
yeah, but here's why I'm asking that question though.
Mm-hmm.
You can still catch COVID even if you've been vaccinated.
Absolutely.
So all those people who don't want to wear masks, fine. They say you don't have to wear a mask outside. What if you're outside in the crowd?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Now, I know for me, I'm not really ready to take my mask off yet, so I'm wearing mine. And I don't think COVID is something that will ever be gone. I think COVID will be, like the flu or any other disease that comes, it's going to always be out there. It'll just be so minute in terms of the numbers. But I mean, the flu is out there. The flu hadn't gone away. West Nile hadn't gone away.
Yes, but my question is this. Is COVID that minute yet?
What their point is, for the people that's fully vaccinated, it has reached a point where it's that minute. Outside. That's the emphasis. So in an outside environment, that's what they're saying. In an outside environment, if you've been fully vaccinated, you've reached a point where you're and this comes after the results of the latest rounds of tests that has tested this, and they've been testing this for months since the first vaccinations went out. They've been testing this, so this is where this comes from. This data and this announcement comes from the data that they've reviewed from the latest test that tested that specifically.
I'm gonna certainly follow the science. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. And I'm gonna do what I think is right. At this point, there are too many bad actors.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying on that, but it's good news. And then as family, come on in and join the conversation, because I'm sure there'll be mixed thoughts on this, but some of you are out. And look, what they also said, if you still prefer to wearing a mask, by all means do so until you're comfortable. So for me, it didn't really change anything for me. I'm still wearing my mask. I'm not comfortable yet, but I that's what the latest science says.
We'll roll with the latest science.
Oh, I love Andrea's comment. Can you get that on the screen for us, Kennedy? Thank you. She said they didn't read in Miss Gordon class, and they don't read now. Don't expect graduate level behavior from elemental minds. I look. I what do you always say, Charles? You say reading is fundamental.
That's right.
In this case, hearing is fundamental because they didn't even have to read this. They came on TV and said it, and they still got it wrong. And all I saw was people like, we don't have to wear masks no more. Everybody, nobody has to wear masks. I'm like, what are you watching? Because that's not what I watched.
Yeah.
So,
well, unfortunately, that's what I mean by bad actors. Sometimes people are bad actors and they don't even know it because they're listening to someone else, listening to someone else, who's listening to someone.
it reminds me of that old exercise they used to have us do, where they would start with one person on one side of the room and whisper something in their ear, and then it had to go all the way around the room. And by the time it got to the end of the room, it was a totally different story.
That's right. Exactly it.
Every single time.
Exactly
And you know what? To this day, I've never done that, even with adults, where it's the same story once you get to the end.
Oh, it's impossible. It's impossible.
So that's still interesting to me. That's one of those human elements that always perplexes me. It's like, why can't we keep the same story all the way through?
Yeah, I agree. But
so, family, look, go ahead, Charles.
I was gonna say you can't keep the same stories because you have all different types of personalities and levels of understanding. That's what Andrew was just pointing out. Somebody may look at it one way, and somebody may look at it another. And you just can't presuppose that just because they make it plain that everybody's gonna interpret it the same way, no matter if it's written in black and white.
That's true. That's true. Good. I mean, good point. So, man, look, I'll let you dive into all that we got to talk about today, and pretty heavy stuff. So, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, brother, I mean, where do we begin? I mean, it's there's a lot going on, especially in Mississippi. Especially in Mississippi, you would think at a time where people are coming out of COVID and government has actually stepped up and provided some relief, that relief would be available to citizens, but Governor of Mississippi has decided to cut off those unemployment benefits. So that's Mississippi being Mississippi. Mississippi is always going to Mississippi. You never heard that term before, you may not know what that means. But
well, can we park there temporarily? Because I want to dive into that a little bit. You restate that because we're going to get confusion here, and so by the time before we can even finish the show, somebody's going to have a different meaning of what you just said. So let's talk about that.
Get our young brain in here so she can talk to him about it. Maybe she can do better than I.
Let's get her in here. Kennedy, come from behind the scenes and come on in here and join us as we try to break this down. Because
hey,
young minds in this case might be better than the older minds. So I want to hear because I got a feeling. I just have a feeling that the way people are reading this and perceiving this is somewhat true, but not totally true. So let me just start by asking you the question: what did you gather from the statement that Mr. Irvin just made, or from Governor Reeves' decision? What do you think that means?
when he says Mississippi gonna always Mississippi, I feel like he means by like It's kind of like how Texas believes that we're like our own country. Mississippi's going to always do what they want to do, regardless of what the national or federal law is. They're going to do what they always want to do, which is why I just think it's crazy because I don't think states like Mississippi and Texas don't really fully think about the lives that they affect when they make these decisions because it's millions of lives. So that's what I took from Dr. Irvin's statement.
And what did you gather from Governor Reeves' decision regarding the unemployment? What does that mean? What do you think that means?
So what I gather from it, what I think it means is basically he's cutting off any type of benefits, like unemployment benefits. So earlier in COVID, people was getting like $600 checks a week, and I think now it went up to like a little bit, maybe 1,200. I'm not sure, but now I remember in one of the articles that I read, he was stating how COVID it's been over a year now. People don't really need to it's not really, they don't need the money anymore, I guess, if that makes sense. That's what he was saying. Basically, he was saying it's been over a year, y'all should have a job now, so these federal benefits are getting cut off, which I think is kind of crazy because Dr. Irvin, this is why I chose this because I'm kind of confused. How can a governor decide when to shut off federal funding for a state? Like, can he decide that?
Have you ever heard the term states' rights?
Yeah. But it's still money from
Yes, it is. It's money from the government that's intended for the citizens of each state. However, the administration of the state and the laws of the state are decided by the House and Senate, the legislature of the state, and ultimately the chief executive officer, which is here's a concrete one that you will remember. Obamacare.
Yeah.
Which states decided to turn down federal money, the citizens cheaper health care. Mississippi.
Yep.
Billions of dollars turned down for politics. Instead of enhancing the lives of the citizens, they played political football with it. Same thing with this. Even though we're one of the poorest states in the nation, this is what they choose to do because they say, well, you just ride the system and you'll never get a job. Maybe true is there'll always be a percent of the population that's not taking advantage of the system. But kind of a pandemic this deep and this long, what would it hurt?
Well, I think the other point to this, you got to remember. So what any state can do is refuse assistance from the government. They can refuse it, which is essentially what he's doing. And what this means is the government came in because your typical benefits where you're going to max out on the state, no matter the highs you can get in unemployment benefits, regardless of your salary, I think it was like $200 something a week. All right. So particularly in the state of Mississippi, I think it was. What the government did at the height of the pandemic, they passed a law and they supplemented that. So in addition to what Mississippi gave you, the federal government gave you an additional $600 a week that came through from feds to pay for that. Then that expired and they reenacted it and they knocked it from $600 to $400 extra you got a week. So you still were getting a very sizable, let me put it to you this way, you were getting enough money you could actually probably pay your bills at that point. Then, now what he's saying, you don't need the money no more. We're no longer we're going to refuse the assistance from the feds in terms of unemployment. We're no longer going to take that supplement. So the only thing you're entitled to get is what Mississippi gives you, period.
But Mississippi doesn't give a lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
So, and that's why I feel like, because I know we don't want to talk about this topic too long, but I feel like, does he not understand that this could possibly increase the unemployment rate, I feel like, in the state of Mississippi?
Well, it's not about understanding. And it's not going to increase the unemployment rate any more than it is. You still got the same amount of people on unemployment, but they're going to get substantially less.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this didn't cost the state of Mississippi anything, okay. But it's not about unemployment, and that's what Charles says all the time. You got to look deeper. This really is not about whether he wants the people of Mississippi to get unemployment. Now, it has nothing to do with that at all. So I'll let Charles take you into deeper to what this means. If he wants to talk about it, if he don't, I'll talk about it a little bit. But it's bigger. It's totally not what it looks to be. It has nothing to do with unemployment and getting the people unemployed.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's the short version. Politics 101. A red state that's going against a blue president. Everything that they do is seen in that lens. And in the lens of the people who are receiving those benefits are lazy and don't want to work anyway. So why should we provide them with that much money?
Mm-hmm.
If that's your prism that you're looking through, then that, of course, it's not you because you're looking from a holistic prism and try to put everybody on equal footing.
Right.
So, Bird.
So, Bird is in the house. What's up, Bird? So that's a great lesson for you, Kennedy, because I figured I could tell that you weren't quite wrapping your head around this, and I wanted to make sure that you
right.
that you made the main point because you wasn't on the main point. It had nothing to do with unemployment. This is
right.
politics.
That's why I said I didn't want to talk about him because I know his politics, and that's in line with his politics.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since we still talking about politics, I don't know if you all know, but recently what just came out was how the Mississippi Supreme Court just overturned their 65 initiative, the marijuana bill. So that's another. But the thing, it didn't
I'll let you take it.
You gonna let me take it?
He's deferring to me.
I'm gonna chime in, but y'all go ahead for 1 second.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Kitty.
So they basically overturned the bill, but it was initially proposed by the voters. Like the voters voted on it, and then all of a sudden they overturned it. And when I was reading the article, because I literally just found out like 5 minutes ago, when I was reading the article, they were saying how the procedure to get that proposal on the bill, it was inaccurate, it was incorrect, so which is why they overturned it. But a lot of, I feel like state citizens were just like, well, what was the point in the first place? And I feel like deep down, really, I feel like Mississippi doesn't really want to make money off of it for real. I feel like the state of Mississippi could be so great. And that's why earlier, like I said, I couldn't get my mind wrapped around the unemployment because it could be bigger than what like the state is doing now, but it's just the state and local politics and the local government. And I've said this before, even before, like when my dad was in school and we would visit Jackson too for my cousin as well, who just recently graduated. I was like, Jackson especially it could be an economic boost in the state of Mississippi, but I feel like it's certain things that are still, like Dr. Irvin said, it's just a red state. It's still very old fashioned. And I feel as though it was always that way. That's what
let me say this, Kennedy, just to respond to that. There are plenty of red states that are economically blowing off the map. So it's not just, so I want you to keep the broader perspective there. So what it's about is it just comes back to politics. This is a red and blue battle. This is line up with my constituents, make sure that I'm in good. The only reason why this wasn't done sooner, because it was too many of his constituents that needed those unemployment benefits at the time. And so when we look at the ruling, and I'm going to pull some up here, and this shocked me. And so I was laughing because your reaction was the same reaction I had with Charles earlier. That's why he deferred it to me. So let me pull up this. So so let me
pull it now. Think about it. Think about this. Okay. This is an opportunity for the state to make a positive step. But because it has some invocation of marijuana, it's frowned. But the bigger question you have to ask yourself when you look at what they actually did is, what happens to citizens' initiatives or other things because the people follow the rules that were created on the ballot. Well, now basically saying that there is no citizen-led effort because everybody's been following the same rule, but you're changing it because it has marijuana involved.
Okay.
Which, if we stop having such a narrow viewpoint, like I said before, Mississippi has top researchers in the field of marijuana. We have millions of acres of land that are doing nothing. And think about all the people who relied upon the majority decision to allow medical marijuana, who've invested tens of thousands of dollars to get ready for the rules that were supposed to be rolled out.
Exactly.
So it's a very narrow lane of thinking, but probably not over because if somebody who was harmed by this ruling today and have invested a lot of time, effort, and money, then they're probably going to have standing to challenge it.
Okay.
And so it'll come in legal balance. Delayed, I think, 5 years or better. I don't think anybody has gone as far as they went today because they try to say the state's initiative process is outdated. You should have said that before they started. Those were the rules that were in place. You can only engage under the rules that are in place.
Exactly.
So wait a minute. So here's my point to both of you guys. So, and this is what I posed to Charles. So let me get this straight. So I'm making the decision, and 6 justices made this decision, ruled this way, that I'm going to rule against this, and then I'm going to tell you that your rule is outdated. You need to change the rule. And the reason why I'm ruling against it is because the law and the process is outdated. No, since when do we get to say the process is outdated? So we got to rule against it, and you got to change your process. No, you got to go by the process that's on the books. This is baffling to even me. This is beyond what I've seen in my lifetime in the great state of Mississippi. This right here is baffling to me. And for it to be done at the highest court in the state.
Exactly.
I'm like, Charles, you're gonna have to give me something because I'm sitting over here on this one like, dude, what
scratching your
this?
head. You scratching your head. It doesn't make sense.
It's a larger policy problem that has just been created by this ruling because it's going to end up invalidating any citizen initiative. Go down a little bit in the article and you will see exactly what I mean because I think one of the dissenting justices
You're getting a little chopped up over there, but we got most of that. I will say, I don't know, man. This is one because this wasn't even. We can't say, there's some issues you can say that are clearly divided by race. One race is on this side, one race is on this side. It's clearly divided by generation. So millennials are here, X is here, right? This is not the case. This was everybody. This was a gumbo pot. So that's why it's so shocking to me because this was a gumbo pot issue. You had everybody in that pot. So I'm just blown away with this one. I have no words for this one. So that's why I keep coming back to you, Scholar, because they always told me when you don't know the answer, go to the teacher. So I'm going to the teacher saying, "What's up, man?" Because this.
So Bird has a question from our family. He says, "So what's Bird has
go ahead and put Birds up.
Bird
so was the flag
No, I
vote
said scroll
process.
down in the article. I'm gonna.
Charles, can you let me do a test right quick? Can you hear us? I think he's frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. Scroll down in the article and the answers are there. Keep going. Keep going. Went too far. Go back up. Back up a little bit more. Right here. Right here. So this is what you call living inside of a technicality.
What's the technicality?
Basically, the Supreme Court is saying you can't have medical marijuana because the rule needs amending and we can't amend it, so we're just throwing it out.
Wow. Wow.
It's a very circular logic. Yes.
You know, one thing I would say about Lady Justice, there is more double talk than Lady Justice. And sometimes I'm just like, really though. You know, I get it, but you know, 90% of the times it makes sense, but then there are times, 10% of the times, I'm like, I can't buy that.
So, Dr. Irvin, you think
it doesn't make sense? Doesn't make sense.
Can you answer Bird's question real quick? He was saying, so was the flag vote process wrong as well? So were we living in the technicality with the flag voting process?
If they
funny that you mentioned that.
Want from a new flag, yeah.
Okay.
We are, you know, look. That's why
there's a key line. There's a key line from the dissent. There's a key line from the dissent in there that tells you everything that you need to know about this case. And that is this. This is enough to silence citizen advocates from doing anything in the state.
So, this is really all a part of 2022.
Yes.
I'm telling you. Look, there used to be a song, hip hop song, talking about the master plan. Hey, they orchestrating the master plan, and we just got to stay woke and realize what's going on. But I was shocked by this one, and like I said, the reason again why I was so shocked by it because it was a gumbo pot initiative. Usually with gumbo pot initiatives, you don't see this because everybody wants it across all sectors and across all constituencies. So you generally don't see this. So that's why this one was so shocking.
Very. And I think a lot of times.
Not when you consider who, I said not when you consider who was sued in the first place. The mayor of Madison.
Good point.
I know your local politics.
Yeah, I didn't know that one. I think though a lot of times I think this shows, and it kind of like once again, I don't want to say it's discouraging, but to certain people, you know, they're kind of like certain people like my generation, they were saying, so what's the point of even putting this initiative on the ballot? And so I can see why they say, well, my vote really doesn't even matter. But I feel like no matter what, we should still push the initiative that you still need to vote regardless of the outcome. But it is a little discouraging because it's just like, who all knows, like not everybody knew that we were living in a technicality. You know what I'm saying? So,
you know what? Here's
but they want you to be discouraged. They want you to be discouraged. And that's why I said in that article, it was revealed by the dissent. He gave up the game. This is an overarching effort to crush citizen-led initiative.
Okay.
But we know the Mississippi State Legislature was not gonna do it. So if the citizens don't, the legislature will do it, then what happens? Nothing. And that's what they want.
Yeah. I have an analogy for that. So when you think about it, Kennedy, to your point, you said some of the millennials feel like, hey, my vote don't count. There's no reason to vote, no reason to even do this if we put it on the ballot and vote for it and can get overturned. Say, the race is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And the reason why I say that is, the first time I ever went out and I started playing football, I was not, the dominant player. That first year I played, I spent more time on the bench than I did on the field. Right. So if I would have given up at that point, so I got two choices. I can give up and say, hey, it's not worth it. My efforts don't count. I can work harder to be the best person to get on the field. See, there's always a choice. And so when they're showing their card, then what that tells us is we can't ever go to sleep. We got to stay woke and be progressive about the actions we're taking. And so I don't think, so when you hear your fellow millennials tell you that it's frustration, but you've got to redirect that, because to give up, like I tell somebody said, man, I don't want to go back to school. That's going to be 3 more years of my life, 4 more years of my life, 2 more years of your life. And here's what I tell them. I said, the time going to come anyway.
Exactly.
So do you want to be 4 years later and have it, or 4 years later and saying, I wish I would have? The time is still going to happen. And so the reality is we've got to change our mentality. So, because they're counting on us to give up. They're counting on us to get distracted. They're counting on us to get frustrated. They count on us to get discouraged, because all those actions lead to no action. It leads to apathy. Okay. Apathy has been our greatest Achilles heel from the beginning of time. So if they can do anything to increase apathy, then that's a win. So if I can discourage you, I'm going to make you more apathetic. If I can frustrate you, I'm going to make you more apathetic. That's the goal. But we can also turn that and say, instead of being apathetic, you're just going to make me more hungry. You're going to make me more passionate. You're going to make me more determined. You're going to make me more persevering. You're going to make me more dedicated. You're going to make me more pissed off. So that's going to make me work even harder. So that's the approach. So I challenge you to, when your generation tells you that, I challenge you to throw that back out.
Okay. I'm going to hold myself accountable to that. I'm going to hold myself to that. I am. Because I think that's very true. If anything, it should just push you to even more to do better and to make strides, political strides, for not only just our generation, for many generations to come. So I definitely do agree with that. Dr. Irvin, you have anything to say?
I was just sitting there thinking that you are fortunate that you are, one, extremely bright. You understand the rules that are on the books, but you're starting to get a perspective of how those rules are applied. And so I think that's very, very good. Now you are starting to see, well, that doesn't sound right. What's wrong with it? And so you're beginning to pull it apart and you can build a better mousetrap.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I am. I think doing this research for the past couple of weeks has definitely opened my eyes to newer things and a lot of different topics that I guess I really wouldn't have, looked up until I've actually sat down and did it. But I think you're starting to I like just today living within a technicality. I didn't realize it till you pointed it out. And unless you told Mr. Peters to scroll down, I never realized that until today. So I think that's very interesting in a way. All right. Well, I do have one more thing that I wanted to bring up, which is why I titled the show today, Are We Living in an Economic or a Health Crisis? Because I feel as though throughout the topics that we covered today, politics is what's truly playing a part, and I feel like what's making the pandemic last longer, in my opinion. So recently, I don't know if you all know, but the Colonial, I think that's what it's called, or let me see.
Pipeline.
Yeah, the Colonial Pipeline actually got hacked. And so then after that, it shut down. So I don't know if y'all saw some pictures from Facebook how a lot of, especially in Mississippi, it was older people. Once they started panic buying and panic buying gas. So they would fill up all these huge jugs of gas and all making sure because they was afraid they was going to run out of gas. And so it was just gas. And another thing, it's a rubber shortage. Not only that, it's a lot of other companies like Chick-fil-A, other restaurants who are shortaging within their product, so they can't produce to the best of their ability. So Chick-fil-A doesn't really have a lot of sauce for their chicken, right? So that means, of course, some people are just like, I don't really want to go to Chick-fil-A anymore because they don't have the sauce that I want. And so if anything, that just lowers their prices. It decreases their profit, and I feel like it still affects the economy in a way. And all of these shortages, what's going on, and panic buying and stuff like this, it kind of makes me wonder, is politics playing a role in this pandemic even more than it should have been before? And is it the reason why we're going through this economic crisis right now? Bird said they paid the too. Oh, wow.
Of course, there's a couple key points about this, because I was going to hit on what Bird just said. That's a privately owned company.
Okay.
That owns that pipeline. Secondly, when something like that happens, it doesn't usually happen in the United States. It happens somewhere else, so we're not that familiar with that. 3, because we have a 24-hour news cycle, it sometimes causes people to have a chain reaction to the news. So if you hear that the pipeline is shut down and there's no more gas, then what are you gonna do? Buy gas. One other thing that I'll point out is they paid the ransom so they could get the pipeline back up and running. Government doesn't do that, or they say. But with this being a private company, they were hesitant to ask for the government's help because the government wants to see. They don't want them seeing proprietary trade secrets and that type of thing. It was a very delicate dance. So I would say this is akin to the toilet paper run that we had last year. And you got to be aware that people are psychologically sensitive to anything right now, because we just came out of a traumatic pandemic, and we're still not all the way out of it.
Very true.
It's not uncommon for ransoms to be paid. It's just not something that we've experienced in America. So I think that begs the question of, what is the architecture and security of America like? Are we still who we think we are?
I think this past year has shown that it hasn't, because prime example, the Capitol. That's a prime example, I feel like.
That's a perfect segue.
Think we are who we think we are.
What'd you say, Mr. Peters?
I don't think we are who we think we are. I think we are who we think.
I think we are
to be.
Oh, definitely. But even in that, we're still a superpower as a country. We have some messed up ways inside of the country. And
but so are we actually?
I think instead of looking at it, yes, we are. Yes, without a doubt.
We are. We definitely are.
Yeah. what you're keying on is the fact that we have the social justice unrest and coming out of the pandemic. But guess what? The pandemic is the only new thing in there because we haven't had one that big since the Spanish flu. All the rest of those things are repeat. We've had social and racial tension in America since America was born. We've had socioeconomic injustice. Leslie can speak to this. We did a whole series on the inequities and the differences in income that create those inequalities. All of those things have been in place for a very long time.
Okay.
So if anything, you ask a larger question of is America design flawed when it comes to racial equality, social equality, economic equality? Are we a superpower? Yes. The superpowers experience hard times? Yes. It's more work about it, and that's what it's for.
I agree. Couldn't have said it better.
Okay.
So
But you hit on something to talk about real quick. And that is this. There are people inside of the Republican Party now trying to reframe what we saw with our own at the Capitol. They're saying they were tourists. Wow. That's what tourism looks like now?
No.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, Ms. Harrison, when you say education also. Yes, there's education inequality as well. I'm sorry if I have an echo. It's in a different and so I'm getting feedback.
Yep, understood. This is the last thing I'll say on this, and we'll move on. But the reality is, Kennedy, yes, plain and clear, we America's a superpower by far, but we're not a superpower without vulnerabilities. We have vulnerabilities, and we've discovered, and our vulnerabilities have been on Front Street for even all American citizens to see as of recently, which is not something we commonly are exposed to. So I'll say that. And then as far as, you go back to the question of how you pose the title of the show, are we in an economic crisis? We're in crisis, period. We're in crisis, period. We got many crises. But as a nation, America is in crisis. And that's really the message. And America is in crisis, and we're in crisis on many fronts. We're in crisis on race. We're in crisis on ideology. We're in crisis on the basic human elements of life. We're in crisis on education. We're in crisis on climate. America is in crisis, period. So I don't think you can narrow it down to one area. We're just in crisis.
Very true. Lakeisha commented, she said Franklin R McKee, Roderick McKee. Do y'all may know who that is?
Franklin R McKee and Roderick McKee.
I know Fagan, but I'm not sure what she means by that.
Give us a little more information.
What you're asking.
Yes.
So Charles, we kind of covered some interesting news today, some disturbing, just kind of trends and some things, and then to have that happen from the state Supreme Court, which was very disheartening. Where's the silver lining in what we've discussed today?
that we know about, and we can take it around. What I always say, this is a long war, and so what I mean by that is just what you said, same thing, just a different analogy. It's a marathon, so there are going to be ebbs and flows, but as long as we know what's going on, we can react.
True.
The thing that we want to do is not always be reactive. We want to have a healthy balance between proactivity and reaction.
Fair enough.
How do you create that healthy balance, though?
By being on offense, that when you said your people in your age bracket are discouraged, fighting against that, because the discouragement is a reaction to the issue of the day. Fighting against it is active activity that will last for the entire year, decade, millennium.
Very true.
Kennedy, let me put it to you this way. Have you ever had a difficult class or just a very difficult professor that you just couldn't seem to catch your footing?
Yes, it was this semester.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
It was Dr. Irvin. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, it probably was him. I mean, because I'm a much nicer professor than he is, so it probably was. I wouldn't even want to take his class. But what I will say, in that moment, right? Because as students, you got choices, right? You can drop, you can withdraw. You got a lot of choices.
Yeah.
What was the one reason that made you didn't take any of those easy way out? Obviously, you stayed in the class. You kept missing. What was that thing that made you move forward?
I think it was kind of like what you basically said earlier. How it's either you can sit here and complain and wait, another 4 years and not do your degree, or you can still push through and get it done within the next 4 years. Like you look back, you're like, okay, I completed. I got my degree, and I think that's what it is. Like this semester, I have to take macroeconomics. So I'm either going to complain about it now and just get it over with now. I'm going to wait till my senior year and still complain about it and have to take it, or I won't get my degree. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was like how my way of like always scheduling classes too, is just like, you have to get it done. The work has to be done regardless. So it's up to you.
You know what? And that's my point. So that's your answer to your question. You just answered it yourself. It's the same thing. Look, everybody has a choice. Is that choice equal? No. Is that choice fair? No. But everybody has a choice.
Yeah, very true.
And here's what I'll tell you. The choice to do wrong and do right is equal. It's fair. The choice to whereas the choice to put on your shoes may not always be equal and fair, because if you don't have shoes, you can't put none on. But the choice to fight or flee is always a choice. And then how you fight gets into the strategy and what Dr. Irvin talks about. Obviously, having a right strategy about how you fight, so that you're building long-term momentum and really changing the generation.
I do.
But fight or flee is. Yeah.
Go ahead, Liz.
Fight or flee is always a choice, and it's always a fair one.
Yeah. So Kennedy, I'll give you an on-air recommendation for a good book to read, and that's one of my favorite books, The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Yes.
Understanding the strategy of winning battles. And it's not exactly what you think, because he's explaining how high ground and water supply and seeking to make peace when you're weak or when you're strong, how those are relevant to overall strategy. It's not just having the biggest army. It's not just having the most grievance. It's how strategically can you think in these moments when that's obviously out of step with what we would like, but how do we strategize around it to make a winning outcome?
Okay.
And here's my shameless plug for HBCUs in that regard, because I think they excel right here. They make you think. When they make you think at your highest level when you're in your weakest moments. And I'll say that again because not everybody got that. But they make you think at your highest level when you're in your weakest moments. There's a reason for that. In other words, what I mean, nobody can get you as frustrated or as upset as a HBCU. They do it like no other. But what they build in you by doing that, you don't know it then, but they're preparing you to survive in life. I can't tell you how instrumental that has been for me, but that right there is significant because it's devastating when you're going through it. And you just be like, man, I just want to get out of here. But you'll appreciate it later.
Yes, I definitely do agree because it's a lot of, especially this past semester, JSU has been through a lot. Yeah, so I do agree that at my weakest moment, it did make me think at my highest level. I will say that. It is challenging minds and changing lives for sure.
Especially when you got a
you have to be creative.
Especially when you got that old professor like that guy over there, he But Kennedy, as we head out, the final few minutes of the show, audience, get your comments in if you got any questions. What else you want to talk about, Kennedy? This is Kennedy's Corner, Kennedy's 5 minutes here. Whatever is on your mind, what do you want us to talk about?
I will definitely say, I don't know. I feel like just to make sure we all keep an eye out for, like I said, our local reports about everything, about our local, make sure that y'all stock up on gas. I don't know if the gas is restored yet for sure, but I feel like y'all all can see the increase in prices because I definitely have. So try not to go around too much. Save that gas. But
absolutely,
like you guys are saying, it's America. Go ahead, Dr. Irvin.
Here's what I want to say about the gas. There is not a gas shortage. I'm not sure. This is like Leslie was talking about earlier about whispering in the ear and playing that game. They said the gas pipeline got hacked. They didn't say it was a shortage in gas. Nobody's been driving for the last year, so the gas is stockpiled.
And you know what? and Dr. Irvin, you are very true because Mr. Peters, I don't know if you remember, it was like a couple years ago, but I think it was from Hurricane Harvey, and you know how the oil, everything. Dr. Irvin, it was like everybody, because we get our gas, I think it's from Houston or something. It was like or a suburb outside of Houston. Man, Dr. Irvin, when I tell you, it was lines down the street at the gas station just for gas because everybody's like, oh my God, we're running out of gas. My mom was like, go get gas, go get gas. So I'm sitting in the line for like 30 minutes just to get gas. You got the Quick Trip employees directing traffic. Come to find out, we didn't have a real gas shortage, but we just panic.
It was the anticipation of a gas shortage. We don't have a gas shortage.
Yes.
It was anticipation.
When I heard that, it in my mind because I'm thinking the whole country has been at home on Zoom for the whole year. Where did all the gas go?
And that's the thing we gotta. I feel like as citizens too, and as a country, we gotta like start comprehending more. It's not a gas shortage, but we just so quick to panic. Just like with Lysol. Like Lysol has just now came back after a year because we started panic buying, panic shopping. Let me go ahead and clear out Lysol. That's what kills Corona. And just like for word, or like, you remember, I don't know if y'all remember when COVID first started, people was like, oh, you're going to get COVID from the 5G towers. Like, like just stuff like that. Like, what are y'all even talking about? Like, let's sit down and actually think for a second. So that's what I want to end the show on. Let's sit down and think.
Look, there might not always be a theory, but there's always a conspiracy.
That's right.
You know, I mean, you
Because
know, when you think about it, and I remember that Kennedy, I remember Harvey, and really the only people that really had the shortage really would have been the people in Houston. And it wasn't that
Exactly.
it was a gas shortage. There was no way for them to get to the place to get the gas. It was, you know, they were flooded for goodness sake. Wasn't necessarily gas is in the ground, so if you flood it, you can't get to it. It's just a point of nation. But I think also it's almost as bad. Charles, if you remember, um, oh, they used to they get me with this all the time as a youngster when they would say that we were studying when what is it, asteroids, and they would say it was going to fall from the sky, and then on this certain day of the year that it was going to hit and demolish out a certain part of the world.
What?
Yeah, you know. So, like I said, there's not always a theory, but there's always conspiracy.
Yes.
Just know that.
Think about this. How convinced were people in 1999 that the world was going to end at midnight
Oh, yeah,
of the new year?
same thing with
Y2K.
2012. Yeah, same thing with 2012 too. People thought the world was gonna end in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, Y2K. Boy, do I remember Y2K. Oh man.
Right.
Yeah. Yo,
I'm
banks
like,
wasn't gonna work.
oh,
The
listen.
grocery store, everything was gonna shut down at midnight.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, if you listen to His Royal Highness Prince, he already made a song about 1999. It can't be that.
Hey, I'm you know, it's interesting sometimes what we come up with. So, and then I always say this, in the pandemic, people hadn't had as much to do, so they probably really got some ideas now. So, you know,
Just
just
think about
always
it.
think through
Each
it,
one of
Kennedy.
these things that we're talking about. Yeah, each one of these things that you're pointing out, Kennedy, leads to this one thing: herd mentality. Because why do you need that much toilet paper? Why do you need that much gas? Why do you need that much Lysol? Because you saw somebody else buying it, and then somebody whispered in your ear, "Girl, they hacked the pipeline. We out of gas."
Monkey see,
know,
monkey do.
it's like the guy that bought a pallet of Lysol, and then you gonna sell it, and you want to gouge the public. Then they got mad because they was arresting people, but you selling Lysol for $25 a can.
Exactly.
And I'm not mad at him for selling Lysol, but I'm mad at for who bought it. Just look. And I told him this. I got a cheaper solution. Wear your mask. Wash your hands.
Yes.
But the reality is this: there will always be those, and Kennedy. There will always be people that will discourage you, and there will always be people that will have that logic. You've got to meet that logic head on, and you got to be prepared to challenge it, and then get people to really see, and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because if you don't, that builds. And then now we got Kennedy walking around talking crazy. And I don't want to ever see run into you talking crazy out there, because I'm going to have to check you.
I'm not gonna build that herd mentality like Dr. Irvin said. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna actually sit and think. I'm gonna sit and think.
I do want to remind in our final minute
And
here, I
then-
want to remind the audience about annual filings for your corporations. You need to get those in, guys. Get those in at the Secretary of State's office. If you're a client of Irvin Law, just give us a call. We can take care of that for you. And then the last tip that I will give everybody, credit tip of the day for this week. And if you guys haven't followed our credit program, you can check that out on our website at irvin-law.com. But I'm seeing a lot of this, so I just want to bring this to people's attention. Utilization, how you use your credit cards is critical. Hit me up if you want the more information, because I'm not going to put it out live, but hit me up on this one. And you can hit me up, hit us in the chat. We'll get those answers to you. But here's the thing. I want to know who can answer this question. What is the most important date? The most important date on your credit card bill? I'll wait. Yeah. So if you don't know that question, you're probably already losing the battle. So just hit me up, 601-340-6800. You call me, I'll tell you. But the reality of it is, or email me at lpeters@irvin-law.com. That one factor, just by knowing how to use credit cards and how to calculate your true due date, you can change your credit score in a dramatic way. So just that's a tip. That's a free tip. Now, that's your free one. If you call me, you got to pay me. But that's your free one. Charles, take us out, man. Take us home.
Always keep it in your
wait a minute,
car.
Charles. Sorry,
and you don't have to worry about it.
I just wanted to remind you, hit the link, join our mailing list, and I send out tips all the time. So if you join our mailing list, you'll get the free tips that come out all the time, so you take advantage of that. Kennedy has put the link there. All right, Charles, take us out.
Yeah. So always keep gas in your car. And you won't have to run to the gas. And something that I learned from Leslie's sister, actually, always keep toilet paper in your car. And you don't have to worry about toilet paper. Yeah, we learned that one time when we were going to see Jackson State play Alabama A&M, and somebody had an emergency in the car, and magically it appeared. Crisis averted. So
that sounds like some Dorothy Peters inspired admiration right there.
Yeah. Point is, if you prepare, you don't have to react. And you can sit. The preparation comes before the sitting and think. Everybody have a great weekend.
Bye, y'all.